We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Drink it in, man.
Deep left side carry on. Picks on the block. At the 5. At the 2. At the 1 to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
Drink it in, man.
Get up, Stafford throws. It is end zone. Caught! Oh, baby, what a catch! Kenny Golladay, you're a freak! What a catch! Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
I love the Lions! Say it with me! I love the Lions!
Drink it in, man.
Detroit Koolaid Drinkers Friday. We are here on the Detroit Koolaid Cast. It's your boy Oakry. You can find me on Twitter at Derek Oakry, DEREK, OKRIE, bringing you 2 Kool-Aid Casts a week, as well as you can find the Believe, BLEAV, and Lions show that drops Thursday mornings with me and the one and only Lions legendary safety, Benny Blades, is in the house. But unfortunately, I don't have a legend like Benny Blades. All I got here on a Friday on the Kool-Aid Cast is, Grifka. Grifka, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm a legend in my own mind. Come on.
There's
Jack
no
of all
doubt.
trades, master of your own.
That's a bell for
Well,
that.
I'll start with, once again, it's Friday, so it's going to be the weather report. Man, it was so hot this week, but it's going to be nice this weekend. We're talking mid-70s and sunny. So once again, it would be a good weekend with everything going on to stay in your house and just look out the window at the sun. So do that, stay safe. But as always, TGIF, thank God it's Friday.
Grifka, did you tell people to stay in the house? Because for weeks you've been telling them to go mingle and go hang out with their neighbors and throw parties and take their kids out to the park when, we're still supposed to be social distance and being careful, yet you're out just mingling in all your functions that you go to.
Yep, just stay in the house where it's already cool because you've had your air conditioning on because it's so freaking hot outside.
I have been. I've become an air-conditioned guy, unfortunately. I don't know if the bill's going to come in that pretty, but yeah, when it's up in the 90s, I got to kick the AC on. And I got to kick the AC on for a podcast like this because I know on a Friday, you're probably going to bring me some stuff that's going to get me hot. It's going to get me heated. So I got to cool myself down and just take a few breaths and know that it's going to be okay. We're going to have a fun show today. I don't know what Grifka has up his sleeve. We had a good show on Wednesday. If you didn't hear that, go back and listen to the Potato Chip Challenge. Me and Grifka talking predictions for the Detroit Lions, over-unders. And we talked about lots of other things, serious and otherwise, on that show. So please go give that a listen on the archives. And if you really want to go back, it's really fun to go back and listen to shows from 6 months ago, a year ago. I know some people will dive back into like our draft coverage, 6 months after the fact. It's fun to hear what we were thinking the day after the NFL draft or after the Lions lose to whoever they lost to last year. Quite a few L's, unfortunately, but not this year. So Grifka, it's Friday. You talked about weather. You said TGIF. What else we got here on the show?
As always, we always have a bunch of things, but the first thing I want to bring to mind, I don't know if this is going to make you angry or not, but it was announced that the first couple home games this year, that the Lions would not have fans. So once again, me and you were planning on going to the Bears game, and then you were like, well, if you have to social distance, wear a mask, I don't want to go anyway. So do you think that will help or hurt the Lions with the first couple home games not having fans, because they have the Bears coming in the first week, and then they have a couple road games, and then they have the Saints coming into town. So how do you think that'll all play out?
Grifka, this is normally where I ask this a real question, but I won't do it this week because I knew you'd ask me this. I think you've asked me this multiple times now about what would I think about fans? Would I go to a game where there was less fans? Do I think there'd be an advantage if there's fans or no fans? we've talked about this, and I told you, like, I'm not gonna really know what it feels like until I see. I don't know what an NFL game's gonna feel like with nobody in the stands. Like, I feel like the other NBA and hockey, like, I haven't even watched much of it, but when I do, it's sort of like, okay, it's just the game's going on. They've got the seats covered up. They've got a whole bunch of LED boards going crazy and other types of things going on. I don't really notice it. I mean, football, yeah. I mean, you love the Lions at Ford Field when they're 5-0 and the place is rowdy on a Monday night, but it's a dead zone too when they're losing games in December, and we've had some down seasons here. So my whole thought is I got to see it, but I also think that everybody knows this year's crazy, and the Lions have such a good offense coming back. It's probably going to help the offense. I mean, can you imagine just sitting there barking out orders and changing stuff up and running it like it's 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 drill? That's what it's going to feel like for these quarterbacks. And yeah, the defense is going to get that pumped up from the crowd, but they'll also be able to communicate better and do some things. So it's going to come down to who the heck can execute. Who knows that, hey, you're not going to have a fan cheering you. You might not have the crazy music or different things going on, but you just got to go out there and play football and execute. And I think it's actually an opportunity for the Detroit Lions, a team that, like I said, doesn't always have the greatest crowd if they're not, on top of the world winning, and can just come in and focus on football and actually probably pull out some of these games. I mean, I was looking at the schedule the other day. Chicago, at Green Bay with no fans, at Arizona probably with no fans, and then back home against the Saints with nobody there. I mean, there's some decent teams in there, but also, like, because it's sterile environment, I'm not scared, like, oh man, we gotta deal with Pack fans, or like, I feel like it's just gonna level the playing field a little bit, and I'm actually excited to see it. I'm excited to sit here in my sweatpants and with my food and be able to just soak in all these games and do my work for Pro Football Focus and just enjoy football for what it is in 2020. And then, like you say, when they open it back up and it's safe and everything's good to go, sure, me and you will be back at a game or so a season. I'll have to put up with your negativity right next to me where I want to just slug you in the chest. But for this, I'm fine with it. But I also just need to see it and feel it. And some places are going to have fans. Is that going to be a competitive advantage? Is it not? I mean, I really don't know till I see it. But I don't think it's as big of a deal as people are making it out to be.
Well, I don't think the Bears game is going to matter as much. I mean, it's a division game. We see that team twice a year, and you know how to play against them, what they can do. I mean, that team just ain't that great anyways. And, I don't care who's under center, if it's Mitch or if it's, Nick Foles, Mr. 1 year, and everybody keeps on giving this guy big money to suck. I think they'll beat them, but New Orleans, that's going to be a tough game with no fans. I mean, I think you would really need the crowd up there to pump up that defense. Let's face it, I mean, Drew Brees is getting long in tooth, but he's still a dang good player, and that's still a great offense. So I think the Bears game's not so much, and I think the Lions, they can win that one straight up. But I think it's really going to hurt them a little more without any fans there for the New Orleans game. I mean, like you said, it's probably no big deal, having to go out to Green Bay with no fans, or Arizona. I mean, yeah, Arizona's like, we don't live out west, so I don't think they have that great a fan base to begin with. But still, I mean, that's one of those things. I think it's going to hurt them more in the New Orleans game than it will the Chicago game.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Grifka, you're the only person I think I know that says long in the tooth. Nobody else says that. I know it's a phrase. I know what the phrase means, so don't give me some big lecture. But nobody else in 2020 says long in the tooth as much as you do. You work it in almost every show. I have to give you one of these.
Grifka, it's a good cliche to use, man. It's better than saying he's old. He old.
Let me ask you this before you move on. You probably got some riveting topics you want to ask me about next, but Grifka, let me do a little 2-minute rant on the Arizona freaking Cardinals. These guys are getting so much love. I swear. Everybody acts like Kyler Murray is the next MVP candidate that's going to just revolutionize the game. I mean, I watched this guy last year. He's tiny. He's inaccurate. He didn't even seem like he cared most times when I saw him play. He's just slinging the ball, like terrible fundamentals. Okay, he ran a couple times. Good for him. He's going to get killed one of these times running. Okay, you added DeAndre Hopkins. Congratulations. Like, last time I checked, your defense is not good. you have some other receivers that I like Christian Kirk and whatnot, but everybody loves Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake got cut by the Dolphins a few years ago, and everybody acted like he was almost out of football, and now he's the next coming, the fantasy football savior for the Arizona Cardinals. Like, I got no worries about going down to the big toaster oven in Arizona and laying the smack it down on the little Mighty Mouse back there at quarterback and just double teaming DeAndre Hopkins all day and telling somebody else to beat us. I mean, give me a break with that. I mean, I know you like to go on rants about Aaron Rodgers and stuff, but I'm just looking at that Arizona game and all these people acting like the Arizona Cardinals are going to win the division, or somebody was it Peter Schrager on Good Morning Football? Well, they're a Super Bowl candidate. Really? The Arizona Cardinals? Because last time I checked, they're going to probably be the Cleveland Browns this year, where they're getting a bunch of love and they're going to have a couple stumbling blocks, and the next thing you know, a bunch of excuses on why they went, 5, 6 wins, 7 at best. You know what I mean? That's where I see that team. So get out of here with that. I'm looking at the whole Lions schedule. Jacksonville, really? We got Indy coming in, Washington, all these teams. Like, we got a good schedule, man, for some parts, and we got some tough games, but Lions, I'm telling you, with the sterile environment, can come in and whoop up on some teams that they normally wouldn't, maybe in a crazy normal football year. So I can't wait for this season.
Just a side note, I mean, I really like your take on Kyler Murray. I never thought he would be that great, and I don't know why he's getting all this pub like he's going to be like the next thing. But
so you
for
agree?
some odd reason, yeah, I agree with you that I don't think he's that great. But then for all the hate that you give Kyler Murray, you give so much love to the crappy Baker Mayfield. Like, he's like so awesome. Like, he's like, the second coming of Bernie Kosar or whoever in Cleveland. It's just like, face it, dude, that guy sucks. Okay. I mean, I got wrapped up in the chaos. No, dude, you just suck. That's all it is to it. Okay, Baker, you can stop saying some chaos of, the nightlife of Cleveland or whatever.
Oh my gosh,
you guys
people.
were on, whatever 2 years ago on HBO but inside the helmet. I don't care. It's like, dude, you suck. Okay, face it. You had all those weapons and you suck. So, I don't know.
This is like the third show in a row. Last week you did it. I didn't have the soundbite. Wednesday, I let you work this in so I could play the soundbite. Now you're trying to shoe in the soundbite again here on a Friday just because it's your favorite bit that we play because you were actually correct in 2019, and now you're going to ride it to the bank. This guy's never going to have a good season. I mean, do you really want me to play it that bad? Do you really want me to do it?
Well, you can, but I mean, this was, once again, it's easy pickings, man. It's like low hanging fruit to say that Baker Mayfield was going to suck. Like, everybody knew it, but you. I mean, it's just for some odd reason you were like, no, he's going to be. No, everybody knew he sucked. So I mean, it's low hanging fruit. I like it when you play it because I like patting myself on the back that way. But come on, man, we all knew he blew.
I think you were the only one last year that was down on this guy. Everyone else had him at the top of the fantasy rankings, thought he was going to blow up. He had a great season the year prior as a rookie, but you came out with this take.
I'm like, that's Baker Mayfield right there. Baker. Yeah, I just want to let you know. He sucks, okay? Yeah, there you go. Mark it down.
Okay, Grifka, so you marked it down in 2019. You were right. Last time I looked, the guy was a winner at every level. He's never been given any credit. He won the Heisman. He came in as a rookie, set the rookie touchdown record. And he's probably going to have a great 2020. And then I'm going to throw this soundbite in your face every week just to get back at you and even the score a little bit. Because just because you were right once, I mean, gosh, what a blind squirrel finds a nut. I mean, come on, congratulate. You got one thing correct. And now we got to play the bit every week when you want to get a little kudos, as you would say. Can we move on, talk some Lions?
We can, but everybody on Twitter that I know because everybody follows me at Grifka DKC knows I'm correct, and they love that take. So that's all that matters.
Okay, if you say so.
Okay, next question for you. There's once again, we've all seen the articles. Kenny Golladay wants get it done, wants to stay here in Detroit, and we know there's a certain price limit that you're looking for him at, where you would sign him at. Anything north of that, I believe he's getting 17 mil north. You wouldn't take him at that price. Do you think there's any chance that Kenny Golladay, since he likes it here so much, he's productive, he'll give maybe the Detroit hometown discount, or do you think it's money talks and whoever the highest bidder is?
Oh, people, Grifka, is this a real question, really?
Yeah, because I love your Kenny Golladay takes.
I feel like this is another repeat.
I know you're hoping he goes cheap. I know because you like him so much. You're like, gosh, please go cheap. I will pay you $1 million in a bag of chili cheese Fritos or whatever.
Is this your sheet of questions from like the last couple months of shows that you're just recycling? Because we've talked about this a million times too, but I mean, I will give you my
I just want to know if
answer.
you get. We've never talked about hometown discount. Because obviously everyone I'm reading now is like he really likes it here and he really wants to stay, and so those people are like, well, maybe he'll take a discount, which I don't think he will. Somebody's going to give him 17 mil north, which I just want to know. Like, you think he would take a discount, or it's all going to be all about the Benjamins?
All right, Grifko, we'll get into Kenny Golladay again, but before we do that, I got to sell you out, which I've been known to do on the show. So I asked you before the show to put down some notes for me on a couple things you wanted to talk about, and I saw that you put this down about Kenny Golladay hometown discount. Grifko, you tout yourself as the delicate genius on the show, right? The educated, unbelievably smart person that reads books and knows all these stupid phrases that nobody else either says or knows. That's you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I looked at your notes and you had Kenny Golladay spelled Golliday. I mean, he's a guy on our team. You would think you would know the spelling of his simple last name. I mean, come on now.
Yeah. I was typing fast at work today.
All right, I knew that was going to be some type of excuse, but I had to sell out the people that Grifka can't spell Golladay yet. He's acing the Wonderlick here on the show when I drop it on him, and he also can't name anybody in the Senior Bowl yet. Then he gets all these stupid books and other stats right that he wants to tout on the show. So all right, let me get to your question now that I've totally sold you out to the people.
I'm
Kenny
okay
Golladay.
People make mistakes. That's what erasers are for.
Yeah, but I mean, when they're ridiculous like that, I got to make fun of you on the show. It's kind of what I do. It's part of my gimmick.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. I can live with it. It's no different than you saying how great Baker Mayfield was.
Galladay with an I, people. Grifka DKC.
Baker
Find
Mayfield,
him on Twitter.
next Hall of Fame quarterback.
All right, so back to Kenny Golladay about this hometown discount. You always, I want him to come cheap. We've had this talk before about, like, I just think his price tag is getting way out of whack because I've done my fantasy rankings. I could do my just best receivers in the game. I can't get Kenny Golladay in the top 10. I really can't unless I'm want to go, straight up Detroit Koolaid and pour myself a big old glass.
Drink it in, man.
I mean, other than that, I can't get him in the top 10 or 12, even though he's tremendous for this football team. So will Kenny Golladay take a hometown discount? I mean, I don't think so in regards to what he's going to be looking for, but I also don't think that the market would be as robust as you and other people think, that people are just going to be fawning over Kenny Golladay. Oh man, let's just give him $18 to $20 million a year. Like, I don't see it. You know what I mean? I feel like he'd go out there and people are like, yeah, you're a good receiver, and yeah, you're big, tall, and been improving every year, and can go get the jump ball, but I mean, you're not the elite of the elite, so I don't think he'll take a hometown discount. I also don't know if the Lions are going to just outright pay him. If I had to guess right now, I think the Lions will pay him more than I would want over a 4 or 5 year deal, whatever they end up working out, and more in the range like you're saying. I would assume it's going to come out to be somewhere in that upper range that to me is too much. For other people, it's just like, I'll pay him whatever. We'll figure it out later. But if they do that, he better up his game a little bit more, continue to get better, and be an absolute dominant, legit number one. He's a number one. I don't like when people say, oh, he's a number one for the Lions, but that's sort of how I feel about Kenny right now. He's a really great player, a great character, but I also think that he's not. You put him on another team with a really good receiver, he's a number two. You put him on a team with a bunch of scrubs, or even marginal players, yeah, he can be a one, but he's not a one that you come in and game plan for. He's not a one that you just fear every play, every snap. So if he gets to that level, he'll justify the contract. If they pay him $18+ million and he's just a really good player, an ascending player on a team with other good offensive talent, then it's an overpay to me. So Kenny's not taking a hometown discount. I don't know if the Lions are going to pay the premium, but I think they will, and I think it could happen in the next couple weeks. I'm not going to hate it. I'm not going to sit here and try to prove myself right and say, oh, they just overpay it. I hate this signing. I'll be fine if they just do what they have to do to get him locked up, but I just don't know if he's going to reach that ultimate elite top 5, top 8 receiver level. We'll wait and see. He's got to take it up another tick or two, and then he'll be there. But he's not there right now, and he's being said he's going to be paid as a absolute game changer, top 5 player at the position, and I just don't see it right now. As much as I love the guy.
That question for a second.
Thought you might.
Yeah. So you said on some teams he would definitely be the number 2. Give me like just 6 other guys. If you paired him with him, he's going to be the number 2 guy. Just right off the top of your head. I mean, I know there's a few you can name, but give me 6. Yeah. You said can't put him in the top 10. You're having a hard time putting him in the top 12. So you should have 6 guys off the top of your head. You're like, these guys, if he'd be the number 2.
Yeah, it's easy. I mean, New Orleans, he's going to be the 2 behind Mike Thomas. You go to Atlanta, he's behind Julio. I don't think he has the physical traits or the abilities like Tyreek Hill does, even though I think Tyreek Hill can get lost, when it comes to certain games, but he can also take over games with one play. I mean, you got that guy in Cleveland. His name is Odell Beckham
Jarvis
Jr.
Landry?
Yeah,
Jarvis Landry. Okay.
Yeah. Jarvis might be better than Kenny too right now when you really break it down the way
he's better than Odell Beckham too. So.
I don't think so.
Yeah, he does.
He would be behind Hopkins. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, trying to think of the other top guys off my head. I mean, I went on a little rant on one of my fantasy articles about everybody has Devontae Adams as the number 2 overall receiver in fantasy, but this guy's he's had 1,000 yards once in his whole life. So Devontae Adams is a good player on that team, but I mean, Kenny's probably better than him in some aspects of his game. Let me see, who else can I think off the top of my head? What am I at, 5 there?
Yeah, and like 2 of them are very debatable, and Tyreek Hill and Odell Beckham, one catch junior.
Oh, please. Let me just pull something up real quick just so I can see the names, because there's about 6, 7 other guys that I would just take over him, not even in fantasy football, but when you're talking, I like Hopkins. I like that one right there. I totally agree with you there. Julio Jones, I gotcha. I'm in agreement with you there. Like you said, I think him and Devontae Adams are in the same bucket. I don't know why. I think Adams gets loved because he plays in Green Bay, and obviously the trophy's named after the coach, so they're going to get every freaking call. Some people may argue Amari Cooper, so that could be one. Why would they say Amari Cooper, Grifko? Why would that be?
Well, Amari Cooper is good. Plus, he plays for the Cowboys, so they get a lot of love. And like Amari Cooper said, we're on TV every week. Yes, you are.
Grifka, I'm just looking at it. I mean, when you're talking about just talent or guys that are on the field, I mean, again, I'm throwing in the mix there. If I had my choice of Chris Godwin or Kenny, I'm probably taking Godwin. I like Mike Evans.
Really? You're taking Chris Godwin?
Yeah. Have you watched Chris Godwin ever? He's freaking incredible.
Yeah, I've watched Chris Godwin ever, and you proclaim how Kenny Golladay doesn't do it for a number of years. Chris Godwin had 1 year, and all of a sudden he's just like, oh my gosh, okay, Chris Godwin. Okay.
Yeah, because the guy's 22, 23 years old. He's on the come up, and he's a slot guy that can't be covered.
He's on the come up, and he's had 1 year. Okay, so your slot guy.
Grifka, how many years is he supposed to have when he's 23? What's he supposed to have, 6 years under his belt?
And you're going to take this guy already? Once again, he's been around for half a day, and you're giving this guy Chris Godwin's better. No, he's not. Chris Godwin would not be a number 1 in front of Kenny Golladay, especially as a slot receiver. Your slot is never your number 1.
You're asking me. You're asking me who I'm taking. I'm taking Mike Evans over Kenny Golladay.
You told me there's teams he would be the number 2.
Yeah.
And I'm name 6 guys.
Yeah, Kenny Golladay is the 2.
And you named Tyreek Hill. You named Odell, one catch Beckham, and now you're bringing up Chris Godwin?
Yes,
come on, man.
Because Kenny Golladay is probably the 3 on Tampa Bay when you break it down. Because I like Mike Evans better than Kenny.
I'll take Mike Evans, but I ain't taking Chris Godwin. I will take Mike Evans, but I'm not taking Chris Godwin.
The reason you don't take Chris Godwin is because you live in the past. You're not looking towards what Chris Godwin's about to do with Tom Brady. Chris Godwin would not be the number 1 in front of Kenny Golladay. That wouldn't happen. Mike Evans would. Come on, Derek, you're better than that. Come on, man. I'm taking Juju over Kenny. I might even
taking Juju. You're taking Juju?
No doubt.
Juju.
No doubt.
Oh my gosh, dude. The guy had 1 good year when there was another wide receiver there. Come on, man. Geez, now you're just grasping at straws, man. You're just
No.
making yourself look stupid. People hit Derek up on Twitter about how bad his picks are on this Juju and Chris Godwin, because come on, man. Come on, son.
Please
God, for
find me
somebody
out.
Wants to tout about the love. I mean, at least throw guys out there that are really good. Not, gosh, dude. You drive me freaking bonkers.
Grifka, don't try to use your own soundbite on me and do the manual version.
I had to because I know you weren't going to find it.
I got it right here because you're doing this to me right now.
That drives me freaking bonkers.
I'm asking you, Grifka. Hey, Grifka.
What the hell are you doing?
You're sitting here drinking that Detroit Koolaid.
Drink it in, man.
Which I often do, and I'm sitting here telling you, who's the guy that knew Kenny Golladay first? Who's the guy that comes on here and says how good Kenny Golladay is, how much he likes him? And then when you start comparing him to all those players I mentioned, if we're having a draft and I'm sitting there at the board, as much as I like Kenny Golladay and what he brings to the table, yeah, I'm taking Juju. I'm taking Godwin for his upside. I'm taking all these other players that are already established, more so than what I think Kenny can do on a basis. I know people hate that, but I see a ceiling of right about where he's at now, 1,200 yards and 6 to 10 touchdowns. I don't see 1,500 yards. I don't see 12 plus touchdowns from this guy on an annual basis. I feel like he's almost at the peak or kind of as good as it gets with him, what we saw basically last year, other than, maybe taking one more little tick up. So, yeah, these other guys have unlimited upside. You can kill the guys that you hate, but Odell Beckham's had lots of better years than Kenny Golladay, at least 2 to 3 seasons better than he has in statistical basis. Yeah, he's been hurt a little bit, but he's still a more dynamic football player. Then you got the top 4 guys I already mentioned, which are no-brainers, and then you got these under-the-radar guys who I know you won't understand that are good until like 3 years from now when they've been blowing up for 3 years in a row, and you'll be like, oh man, Chris Godwin just went off for 13 plus 100 yards the last 3 years with Tom Brady and company. Like, man, I guess I was wrong on the guy. But you don't see it now because he only had 1 season, in your opinion. The guy's a stud.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I want to tell you to write that down too, but there's no way Kenny Golladay is the number 2 wide receiver behind Chris Godwin. Okay, that's not going to happen. Okay, like I said, I would take Mike Evans. I could live with that argument. I could. I'd be like, okay, I got you, man. Good pick. But you're going to throw out Chris Godwin first. First of all, you're taking Chris Godwin over Mike Evans off Tampa Bay. I mean, so, okay. Right. Okay.
Because you wanted me to name guys right now. Like Mike Evans has had, 6-7 years of 1,000 yards. He's sort of on that back end. Chris Godwin is that ascending player, just like Juju is, where, okay, yeah, maybe they had a little stumbling block, and so Grifka wrote him off. But I already put Chris Godwin number 2 in my wide receiver rankings. He's going to be incredible this year. And then you're going to know it next year. You're going to be like, oh, man, I guess I should have been on the come up. But you weren't. You'd be late to the game like you are almost everything else.
Well,
why do you love Kenny Golladay so much? Because I told you he was going to be good 3 years ago. I told you Kenny Golladay was going to be good after his rookie year.
He can still be number 1. He can still be number 1 when defenses are rolling 2 and stuff like that. He's not going to like be lost in the sauce. But you can say, oh, they had a bad tick with Juju. No, Juju had somebody else take pressure off him. So when that happens, those guys need to step up, and he didn't, no matter who the quarterback was. And you're at the slot, with Chris Godwin. You're telling me if Mike Evans wasn't there to take some of that pressure to the outside, this stuff's not going to be there over the middle? I mean, come on, man. It's because they got other stud wide receivers. Now, if Chris Godwin was like the legitimate number 1 where all the coverage is rolled to him, you think he'd be as good?
And same can be said for Kenny Golladay. He's got weapons all over the place, so he's not seeing crazy coverage all day, every day until this year. He's probably going to see more. And Chris, you're talking about talent. I know you said number 1, whatever you called it. I was giving you basically like talented players that I think have maybe either bigger upside or that'd probably take over Kenny Golladay if I'm paying him.
I asked you. You said there'd be plenty of teams where he would be the number 2 with somebody else. I go, okay, give me 6 guys that he would be the number 2 behind. And you gave me Chris Godwin, Tyreek Hill, and Odell Beckham. Now you're like, oh, Odell. You talk about Mike Evans been doing it 7 years. Odell has been around just as long as him. But all of a sudden, you like the guy because he got blonde hair and he's flashy. I mean, all that guy's all sizzle, no steak, man. But you love on that guy so much. It's like, that's what I'm talking about. It's just, come on, man.
I know we got to keep this show moving, but
Yes, please do, because I know everybody hates us talking about Odell Beckham.
Why would you just write off Tyreek Hill, though, one of the most special talents in the game, electric speed, and you just write him off? Why? Because he's not your typical receiver that you watched in the 80s. This guy is like a freaking dynamo on that team, especially with that offense. Yeah, Kenny Golladay comes in, you put Tyreek Hill next to him. The number one option on plays is going to be Tyreek Hill running 50 yards down the field, not Kenny running 15-yard square ins. Like,
So
I'm sorry to break it to
the number
you.
one option is going to be guys running go routes?
Yes, because Tyreek Hill is a special talent. He's a guy that you can't find anyone faster than him in the game. Kenny Golladay doesn't do things that are better than everyone else. That's the reason I'm not willing to pay him like everybody else.
That's like people going, how come Usain Bolt doesn't play football? He's faster than everybody.
No,
it's
nothing like that.
You can take away a go route. Go routes are easy to take away. I mean, if that's your whole route tree is just running a go route,
Oh, this is the same bullcrap you said about Metcalf, and then he went and blew up because why? He's faster and bigger than everyone, and Tyreek Hill is just straight up faster and better than everyone when it comes to that offense and that game. So yeah, he's going to be the number one almost no matter who's there because he does things that nobody else can do on the football field. Let's keep it moving.
He's there
because
Travis Kelce takes pressure down low because they have to leave the safety down low to cover him. They can't. If he wasn't there, Tyreek Hill can't just go run a 50-yard go because they're going to leave the safety back there. Then it's just a jump ball all day, and Tyreek Hill ain't winning a jump ball. So,
well, every season he not only gets open, but he puts up crazy stats, and Kenny's put up some good stats. But I'm just telling you, he's not the elite of the elite, and I love the guy, and I hope that he balls out. But when we keep having this argument, and I can look at my list here and see 10 names that I think are just more of a special talent or in better situations or have bigger upside, I'm going to take those players over Kenny Golladay, who's good in Detroit. But what would he be if he was on a team with nobody else or a worse quarterback, like maybe not as good either? So you can do that all day, every day. Let's keep it moving. I love Kenny Golladay. I know people are going to think I'm hating on him and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to pay him. But it's like there's just other receivers that I want better, both in fantasy and in real life. And I just gave them to you. So there it is.
Okay. Hey, Kenny Golladay, I know you're listening to the show, so please, I apologize for spelling your name. Please, hit up Derek on Twitter. Let him know how you feel because the slouch did it as well. And we all heard about that.
Oh, my goodness. Kenny, you're the man. I love you on this team. I'm a little hesitant to pay you big bucks, but you've been balling out. Keep balling out and prove me wrong. But you can't really prove me wrong when I was the guy that found him. You can't really prove me wrong when I was the only guy calling him out after his rookie year, and you were sitting there. I don't know. He's okay. Maybe he's a 3. I didn't have my draft 3x5 card.
In front of him. I would take Eddie Drummond in front of him.
I had him in the sucks category, but now I've got him in the he's good category.
Hey, that's all that matters is 2 categories, man. It's very black and white. He sucks or he's great.
Oh,
let's do this while we catch our breath. Let's pay some bills here. Take a pause for the cause.
All right, we'll do. I'm going to take a couple breaths and try to get my temperature down here. We'll be back after the break talking all things Grifka. The waffle maker is getting me hot again here on a Friday, but I'm sure we'll have fun after the break talking Lions. We'll be right back.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become? Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Detroit Koolaid drinkers are back from the break. Thank you so much for listening to our sponsors. Talking Lions once again here on a Friday with the one and only Grifka. I think he called himself some type of legend earlier, a legend in his own mind, something like that. You can find him at GrifkaDKC on Twitter, or if you want to tell me why Grifka's not a legend, you can always shoot that over to me at Derek Oakrey on Twitter as well. We have a lot of fun on there going back and forth, just like we did in the last segment. Kenny Golladay, a guy that I pulled, but a guy that I've been a little hesitant on here in 2020 of what his ceiling is, but really hoping he balls out for the Detroit Lions. So, Grifka, what else we got here on the back half of the show?
This is all Derek. I want to talk about your boy Kenny Golladay. Now I want to talk about your other boy. Been reading all the stuff, seeing all the stuff. Taylor Decker? Yeah. Oh, gosh, I forgot all about him. Maybe next show, maybe next Friday we'll talk about Taylor Decker, and that'll just get under my skin.
Yeah.
But been reading all the stuff, seeing all the stuff, how TJ Hockenson is just, so far is having a great training camp, seems to be dominating a lot, making these great catches. Just a couple questions for you on that. Do you think this is the start where he takes a step forward? I mean, you really liked him last year. I was, gave him kind of mediocre stats. He got injured. Is this that step forward we're all thinking? Or does this have more to do with, like, maybe the Lions don't have the linebackers to cover the tight ends? Because we've often mentioned that the Lions have trouble covering tight ends.
Yeah, that's it's been an annual issue for this team. I'm really curious to see if they've shored that up with Jamie Collins. But this is a tough one for me. Last show you got me all depressed, saying that you're rubbing off on me, and that my take sounded like something you would say. I've had to take a week to try to get out of that depression and hope that I'm not becoming Grifka DKC. But when you ask me about Hockenson, like, there's a weird part of me he's getting all the pub, he's getting the hype, and part of me is like, I see it when I watch the clips and I watch the things on the Lions website, but there's something about it where I just don't see crazy stat line dominant, fantasy type player in this guy in year 2. And I remember having the talk with you after the draft, basically me and Hughes sort of attacking you on the draft call, where you were just doing your shtick about, oh, he's a tight end, and I don't take tight ends, and what's his stats going to be, Oakley? That's what's going to justify. And I remember just continually saying to you, Grifka, I don't care what his stats are. I want him to block, I want him to catch, I want him to move first downs, and I want him to help this team win. And if he does that, I could care less what his stats are. And for all the hype he's getting and for the jump I'd love him to take in the stat department, I feel like I'm still wanting that here in year 2. I want him to stay healthy. He's bulked up, so I'd like to be a little more of a beast in the blocking game. I feel like I was really disappointed last year with some of his physicality, and people were like, oh, he's not being as physical because he had the concussion, and he's scared about that, and he switched that stupid-looking helmet that he had, and then he tried to hurdle the guy and got hurt, and we all know how the ankle went at the end of the year. So it's like all these excuses for the guy when I felt like he's going to come in here and be, the guy that Detroit just loved, like a no nonsense, cool tight end, catch the ball, block, just hawk spike in the end zone and just really find his groove, even if his stats were, I think I projected him last year like 700 some yards and 7 to 10 touchdowns was sort of my range. And like you say, injuries and otherwise, he really cut down on that. So in year 2, I'm either there or lower in regards to his stats, to be honest. Like I'm more in the, 600 yard range, as well as maybe, getting a little bit of bump in touchdowns, anywhere from 5 to 8, is kind of where I'd put him maybe in the score range. But like I say, I don't care about any of that. What I care about is he contributing to the team? Is he staying healthy? Is he being a little more gritty and grimy with the new, weightlifting he's done? And does he bring that energy? Like when I watched him in college, you would just see a fired up TJ Hockenson after a catch, or you'd see a guy that would just make a great play and, be really impactful in that way. And I saw very little of that after the Arizona game. Saw some drop touchdowns. I saw some plays here or there, but nothing consistent that I could hang my hat on. So I'm tempering my expectations here in year 2. I know I heard Tim Twentyman and people today just going crazy about how this guy is going to be the can't miss player, and he might score 10, 12 touchdowns, and he's going to do all this. And I'm like, Hockenson just needs to have a really consistent good year from game 1 to week 16, 17, however many. Hopefully he doesn't miss any ball games, and like I say, just be a Detroit favorite by the end of the year. I mean, he's got the crazy hair going now, he's got some of the mojo back. It's like, just be a guy by the end of the year, no matter what your stat line says. People are like, man, TJ Hockenson had a hell of a year. You know what I mean? He's a great player on this team that can only get better in regards to his stats, the way he plays. And that's really what I'm hoping for. So, again, don't give me the stats, or don't give me the Grifka projection so you can be right at the end of the year. Let's just have a tight end wearing number 88 that we can all be proud of and that we're excited about, and that really helps this team get W's.
So do you think it's more like all the work he's put in, or do you still think that the Lions still can't cover tight ends? Let's hope they can cover tight ends.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really think like when somebody's tearing it up in Lions practice, I'm not that guy. There's lots of them out there who say, oh, it's just because he's playing against the Lions defense. I don't ever really think that. I mean, I know me and you have been at practice and have seen some, and you like to point it out more than I do about, oh, this guy can't cover a coffee table. This guy's slow. It's like, we know they're not blazing linebackers and stuff, but we also have never seen Jamie Collins or some of these guys play, and Hockenson just seems like a nasty player in the red zone. He's always getting open. He had a one-hand catch I saw on video. He had another great leaping touchdown catch. So I feel like he's put in the work. I mean, you can't have anything bad happen when you're working with George Kittle. I mean, this guy's not only a beast on the field, he's got that mojo, that moxie that I want off the field or just in general for the love of the game. I think that rubbed off on him a little bit, it seems, too, where he's back having fun. I know in one of his interviews he said he's just having fun out on the field, which I didn't see a lot last year, where I did see it in his college tape. So I think Hockenson's got better physically, but I also think he's just got his, what did the old guy on the combine who used to do the weightlifting? Get your stinking mind right. I think he's got his mind right. And they call him the old meathead or whatever the guy would say. I think he's got that all going for him, and I'm just excited to see what the kid can do. Even though I'm not putting, him in this 1,000 yards or man, he's going to have 80 catches, like, just go out and help the team, man. Be a good team player and have fun. When you make a play, celebrate, have fun with your teammates, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, me, I'm always like, hey, what are his stats going to be? And it's going to be simply where he was taken. And my biggest argument always was, I mean, you're a top 10 pick. That's got to be your stalwarts. That's got to be your game breakers. That's got to be your franchise guys. So if he's just putting up mediocre stats continually, I mean, like 500 yards, 8 touchdowns, that's a dime a dozen tight end. That means that to me, it's like you could have got that guy in the 3rd round. You could have got a guy like that in the 4th round. Those are just mediocre stats for tight end. They really are to me. So you're taking this guy where you took him. This guy should be putting up, you're talking, like you said, George Kittle. George Kittle was a 5th round pick, but we're talking Tony Gonzalez numbers you better be looking for. So, and I can see why people are going to be like, well, look at his stats, because it's all going to point to that 1st round pick. So hopefully him dominating does lead to that stuff. I mean, putting the work in, and Tony Gonzalez, said how great he could be. He's like, well, let's get together and do this. And he is working with George Kittle, and that's great. And George Kittle's like, I shouldn't be paid like a tight end. I should be paid like a wide receiver. I almost like want that for this guy when it comes to his big contracts. Just like, look at the numbers I put up. Look what I do for this team. And George Kittle's putting up those numbers where he can back it up, saying, I'm your first option. I'm throwing up all these yards. That's what I want for this guy. Look where he's picked. I mean, you said you're right. I hated the pick, and I still hate the pick. I hate tight ends in the 1st round, especially that high. But it's just one of those things. Like, the guy better put up stats, because if he's just putting up mediocre stats, like you said, you can go get Levine Toilolo and put up those stats. You can go get 5 touchdowns out of Levine Toilolo and 400 yards. But if he's a better blocker, I mean, you're right. Fans are going to say that. So if this is that big step where he's out dominating like guys are hoping, I mean, you said it before in the prior show, nobody's comparing him to Gronkowski. Fine, okay, we're not talking Gronkowski, but okay, you want to be George Kittle, go put up George Kittle stats.
Good for are you trying to get me? Are you trying to get me upset right now?
No, I did that before the break. I'm trying to keep it calm. I can't do it twice. I don't want to send the paramedics over to your house.
Okay, well, don't say stupid crap like that again, because that's the whole argument we had on draft days. You think that you're living back in like the draft slotting days where the 8th pick, because he makes all this money, has to be this player or that player. That's not how it works anymore. Like, the Lions could not have got a better tight end player in free agency the last couple years or any other way. So they would have had a bunch of slugs, like you said, your boy Levine Toilolo. What'd you like to say about him, Grifka, back in the day?
Hey, we might have something here.
But we knew we didn't have anything. We had a garbage can, and we had no other tight ends. And so having TJ Hockenson, whether you took him 8 or in the middle of the 3rd round, it doesn't matter, because this guy wasn't going to be there in the 3rd round, and he's going to be even the way he moves and the plays he's making in camp are very beneficial for this team, getting other guys open and doing lots of other things that he can do. These guys don't grow on trees. So yeah, you don't want to take him at 8. but nobody's guaranteeing that you were going to find Kittle in the third round, just like the Lions have missed a lot on mid to late players. So I think you need to get off the whole draft stock. I mean, that's the reason you hated Eric Ebron. Oh, he's taken 10th. The guy wasn't asked to be taken 10th. He was just taken there, and he didn't live up. And TJ Hockenson, just because he didn't ball out year one, and the reason I'm tempered in year two is because we have Marv, we have Kenny, we have Danny, we have Swift, we have Carryon, we have all these different players, and it's like by year three, if a couple of those guys go away, yeah, he should be more of a number one target. Maybe we'll see those numbers come up anymore, but you just couldn't find a player doing what he does. I think the guy's 22 years old right now. The type of upside and the ability he has other ways. You know, I know you like to think you can just find him in the 5th, 6th round any day you want, but we've seen with your draft record that you can't do that. So forget about where he was taken and just focus on what the player does for the team and get off his stats too, because nobody's going to be looking at the stat book if the Lions win going, well, TJ Hockenson only had 40 yards and 4 catches. They're going to be saying, we won the game, and remember that first down he had, or remember that red zone catch that got us up over the hump? That's what you're going to be talking about. So the stats in his draft stock, you just got to get off it, man. You got to let it go.
Okay.
What else we got?
That's cool. Okay. One last thing really quick.
Oh,
I know we talked about this guy on draft day, and I remember going back saying this guy would suck. I never thought he was going to be any good, simply because he always had these mounds of talent, and he just never seemed to make anybody around him better. But down in Miami right now, there's a battle for the backup position with Josh Rosen, former first-round pick, high first-round pick, very high first-round pick, and Tua Tagovailoa. So, obviously, Matt Stafford in a couple of years is probably be moving on, retiring, something like that. Would you take a flyer on Josh Rosen, or is this guy completely washed up? Does it ever seem like he was really given a chance? All you ever heard about how smart this guy was at football. He was always kind of like, helping coach, the team in high school and college. But why has he been so crappy in the pros?
Griff, are you ending the Detroit Koolaid Cast on a Josh Rosen? This is another guy you tried to shoehorn into many episodes. I don't know if you're trying to pat yourself on the back again, or you're in love with this guy, or you like to throw him in my face because I thought he had a little bit of moxie and throwing ability. Like, what is it with this guy? Why are we talking about Josh Rosen?
This guy kind of goes back to what we talked about on Wednesday's show. If you're selling blue jeans, this is the guy you want. He looks like your prototypical quarterback, tall, strong arm, supposed to be smart. But for some odd reason, there's just, what is it with this guy? It's just like, could somebody turn this guy around where he kind of turns around and it's like, hey, where'd this guy come from? Or is this guy completely, on the washboard, throw him out with the bathwater?
Oh, Griff, this will be a short topic and we can close up the show because Josh Rosen is not gonna come to Detroit. We have Matt Stafford under contract for 2 to 3 more seasons. We have Chase Daniel here who gets along with him. He's a backup. They even have David Blau who they enjoy or are trying to build. So there's no fit in Detroit. Now, I don't feel like Josh Rosen ever really got a fair shake to some degree, but he also, when he did get a couple shots out there, he really didn't play very well. And the whole thing with him was his personality. Like, there's people out there, me, you, and probably others included, where, people just don't understand him or don't get him or don't get his humor or don't understand where he's coming from, and he rubs people the wrong way. And I feel like Josh Rosen is just, he hadn't found that fit or that place that can understand his talent. They just, probably the players can't rally around him. And yeah, I don't know that he'll ever do anything at the NFL level unless he finds that right fit or gets an extended shot. Like, what's he supposed to do? Playing a couple games here or there and then getting yanked and being under different coaches every year. Like, why would you expect the guy to be good? Everybody thought he was really talented coming out. He's never really found the right spot, and when he has, he hasn't shown out, so he'll probably be out of the league before you know it. But it doesn't mean the guy's a total just waste. It just means things didn't work out for him. There's been many players across the league where they just didn't go to the right team, the right coaching staff, didn't know how to use them. I mean, we've seen that on the Lions with guys like, why am I forgetting his name now? The linebacker that we got rid of that's balled out in New England and is in Miami now. Yeah, Kyle Van Noy. We just used him horribly. He was a great football player. I wanted him. I drafted him in my little virtual draft when the Lions did with that pick. And they just never put him in positions to be successful. He goes somewhere else, and he's not only put in those positions, but the team believes in him, and away he goes. He didn't forget how to play football. I think the same is true with Rosen, but there's no Detroit topic here. I mean, I like the guy to get a fair shake, but I don't see him doing anything in the league. When we talked about him in that draft, I thought, hey, you got him at 10 or he slipped down the board, maybe he'd get to sling it around and be in a good spot, but that just never happened for the guy. So it is what it is. I'm hoping that Stafford's here to finish out his contract, and then I hope the Lions will, supplement a quarterback, a year before he's out or whatever the case is, because we do need to think about the future a little bit here in the next couple of years. But hopefully Stafford plays well, and the Lions need a real leader. That's the reason I was rooting for Tua a little bit this past year, is because I think that kid's got special it factor and that ability just to win ball games when all the chips are down. And that's what I think you really need at quarterback, more so than the throwing or the size or whatever. You need a guy that's just straight up winner and that can galvanize men and be a leader in the locker room. And the Lions need to sort of find out who that next guy is going to be. But hopefully we still got a couple good years with number 9. Maybe even more than a couple, maybe we could get 2 to 4 or 5 years out of that guy and then deal with the quarterback on the back half of that. That'd be ideal for me. I hope he plays well and wins for the Lions. But hopefully we don't have to worry about quarterback for a while. So I'm excited to see Stafford slinging around here in 2020.
Stafford! Okay. Just to end it, I have to agree with you, Derek.
I thought you might. Now, Grifka, this is the other thing I thought you might, but I'm not sure. I had like a dream where I thought, you know what? I really need to ask this question to Grifka at the end of a show, because I just have a feeling it's just something weird. He might have something astonishing, unbelievable, tremendous, just mind-blowing at the end of the show. So I just have to ask you simply this. Grifka, do you have anything else for the people?
Nope.
Oh, Detroit Koolaid drinkers, thank you so much for listening here on a Friday. Grifka hopes you have a great weekend with his weather report. He actually told you to stay inside for once. Fun topics, talking about Kenny Golladay. He's my guy, even though I sound like I'm beating him up the last couple shows, or not fully in his corner. I hope he has a great season. I can't wait till the Lions get kicked off. We've got a couple more weeks and we'll finally be playing real football if all goes well. So I'm excited about that. Everybody, drink in that Detroit Kool-Aid. We'll be back here next week on Wednesday and Friday, serving up that Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid, talking Detroit Lions right here on the Detroit Koolaid Cast. Take care, everybody. We're out.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions.
Drink it in, man.